Drake's shovel pierced the sandy soil as it had for the past 24 hours. He stood in the courtyard alone. His only company were corpses, graves, and a dejected Barney. His eyes were red-rimmed and blotchy, but he could cry no more. Drake heaved the shovelful of dirt out of the grave and onto the refill pile. A half-hearted squawk from Barney caught his attention. The little dinosaur picked up a piece of rope in its mouth, one end frayed, the other tied into a knot for a better grip. The little raptor then gently played their head down. He had also lost a dear friend. Drake looked away, saddened, as he gently patted Barney's head. "I miss her too, buddy." Sniffling slightly before wiping his nose, Drake continued to dig until the grave was as deep as he was tall. Then he climbed out, gazing down at the final, small, sheet-wrapped body. The arms folded across the chest, holding a hand-carved wooden figurine. Forcing himself not to cry again, he gently cradled the small, stiff form before lowering himself into the grave. Gently, he laid Miranda to rest, before yet again pulling himself from the grave. Somberly retrieving his shovel, he grabbed a shovelful of dirt from the refill pile. Then he paused, frozen as he stared into the grave. His vision blurred and he felt the tears begin to roll down his cheeks again as he gently poured the dirt into the grave. With each shovelful, a new emotion compounded onto his grief. Guilt. He was the reason she was gone. It was his actions that brought the mercenaries to his home. He may not have been the one to pull the trigger, but he'd gotten her killed. He'd gotten all of them killed. The sun was beginning to rise again as he patted down the final shovelful with a heart as heavy as a neutron star. Stepping away from the graves, he slowly drew his sword. He stared at the blade, the fine, dark lines that ran in a shattered pattern throughout the steel, the honed edge that had taken so many lives in the name of freedom. Slowly, he laid the blade against his palm, gently drawing it across until his own, bright red blood began to well up in his palm. Turning the sword upside down, he pressed his bleeding palm against the shiny black studs that protruded from the leather grip, and pushed the tip of the blade into the ground a few inches. Barney squawked quietly, nuzzling into Drake's leg as he kneeled down and bowed his head. "I dragged you into this while you were still alive. I am not worthy of your strength in death. Walk the cobbles and be at peace." Drake felt his strength begin to drain away, little by little until his hands began to shake, bright red blood dripping down the blade and into the earth. That was when a small, deathly cold hand lifted his chin, a soft cloth daubing at his eyes. "Don't cry, mister. Please don't cry." Drake slowly looked up at the ghostly figure of Miranda, dressed in a clean white robe. She dabbed at Drake's eyes, concern on her face. Drake couldn't stop crying as he gently dragged the figure into an embrace, beginning to sob. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It's all my fault," he croaked, voice hitching and cracking. Gently, he felt Miranda push away from him, and he let his arms fall. He couldn't bear to raise his head as he was overcome by guilt. But yet again, those small, cold hands lifted his chin. There was a soft expression on her face as she continued to gently wipe away his tears before speaking. No, it's not. I may be small, but I know it's not your fault, mister. You never hurt us. You were always kind to us. You fought for us. So please don't cry. Not even for me." Miranda turned, pointing a small, ghostly, chubby hand at the mansion, windows broken from the shockwave. "They still need you, mister. Don't give up. Please don't ever give up." Drake nodded softly, sniffling slightly as she gave him a soft smile. "Play tug with Barney for me, okay? And remember..." She touched his chest, right over his heart, and he felt a massive surge of warmth as her and her voice began to fade away. "I'll always be right here." Drake stayed there, silent a moment as a calming, bittersweet warmth spread through his body. A pleasant perfume filled the air, and Drake raised his eyes. Flowers and plants were blooming from the graves, plants he knew the name of, but not how he knew it. Aloe, pink carnations, white daffodils that seemed to glow in the rising sun, forget-me-nots, rosemary, and delicate zinnias. And watching over it all was a gnarled, twisted oak tree, covered in ivy and ringed by dark crimson roses, its thick, leafy branches spreading over the graves, allowing dappled sunlight through for the flowers. Slowly, Drake bowed his head again. Thank you. Thank you all. I won't let your sacrifice be in vain. Gomon hummed softly, a debt ball game playing in the background as he sharpened the spike at the end of his tail. It was a calm morning, surprisingly so, considering that he was expecting immediate retaliation from that young warrior. Inserting a fresh vial of neurotoxin into the spike, Gomon set his tail down and let it extend with a cascade of clicking and clacking as the vertebrae-like sections of his tail properly indexed themselves. He'd had his face repaired not but a few hours ago, the bandages still clean and fresh. It still hurt, but he savored every twinge and prickle, refusing pain medication when it was suggested. A sudden silence had him look up from where he was readying spare neurotoxin vials. The view screen had gone dark in the middle of a heated debt ball match. Sitting in front of the slim box was a small obsidian figurine of a sword-wielding human dragging a limbless torso. Curiously, Gomon stood and walked over, certain the figurine hadn't been there just a moment ago. He reached out to pick it up, fingers touching the smooth volcanic glass for hardly a moment. He couldn't feel his limbs. The cybernetics were still in their sockets, but they didn't move. There was a soft, growling noise as he was drug over broken glass, shell casings, and corpses of both species. He tried to see what or who was dragging him, but he couldn't move his head far enough, only catching the occasional glimpse of void-black skin. A coarse rope dropped around his neck, and the next thing he knew he was falling, until... Snap! Gomon blinked rapidly, covered in cold perspiration as he shakily picked the figurine up and looked at it just a little closer. There were words carved into the figurine's pedestal. Your demise. Gomon whipped the figurine across the wall, as though it had hurt him. Something had pierced his heart, something cold and long forgotten by him and his ilk. Fear. The caves were cold but dry. Not that it mattered much to the figures who sat alone in the pitch darkness, their steel bodies long powered down in wait of when they were needed again. A call to arms that never came. Nothing had changed in that cave over the last 9 decades, but today, something would. There was a soft, whirring noise from deep in the cave, as an android slowly woke from its century of slumber. It blinked its mechanical eyes slowly, remembering its purpose, remembering what it lost. Slowly, the machine lifted its head, servos whirring as it took in its immediate surroundings. It remembered when this place had been a place of mystery and adventure for his children on their free days. The machine lowered its head again, remembering how it had failed them. That was when C47L spotted the small obsidian figurine at its feet. It depicted an android, casing flowered open in front of a small group of children. C47L slowly, gently picked it up. Blaster fire, explosions, and screams rent the air. C47L was running, a small group of children directly behind them as they smashed a Geknosion to the side with their steel forearms. A blaster bolt sailed his way, absorbed by his metal shell. Bursting through the main mansion door, C47L froze. Dozens of Geknosions aiming their turboplas rifles at them. There were a few seconds where they stared at each other, neither side making a move from either surprise or indecision. But it wouldn't last, as C47L saw them tense, charging their rifles. C47L gave them all a soft smile, as their metal shell flowered open, providing the children a shield, but exposing their delicate circuitry and AI core. They would die, but that was okay, because the children would live. C47L looked down at the figurine, small lettering engraved into its base. Your redemption. C47L lifted their head, a feeling of melancholy deep in their circuits, as they began to broadcast the wake-up signal to the others. The gentle hum of ancient reactors firing for the first time in almost a century filled the cave. These machines would rise once more to defend their creators.